Hey guys. Okay, so tinctures and extracts. Lost Book of Herbal Remedies. Tinctures and extracts, and I will use that for the picture. Here we go. Tinctures are medicinal extracts of any herb or herbal concoction in an alcohol, vinegar, or glycerin base. Because alcohol is a universal solvent, it is usually able to extract the essential oils from herbs, as well as extract most of the other chemical compounds that water is able to extract. Note that some herbs need a double extraction in water and alcohol to access all of the medicinal compounds. Both alcoholic tinctures have another, much more important attribute, but alcoholic tinctures have another much more important attribute. Sorry. Excuse me, I used the wrong word. They absorb into the body faster than any other means of using herbal medicines. This is due to the alcohol base, which starts absorbing through the stomach wall and even through the mouth upon taking the tincture. Rather than being digested like other things that are eaten and drunk, the herbs are absorbed right into the bloodstream. Another benefit of tinctures is that they last virtually forever, as long as they are stored in a well-sealed container. The alcohol is uniformly fatal to any microorganisms that might come in contact with it, so there is no possibility of the tincture decomposing. The biggest risk is evaporation. To make a tincture, you will need some sort of consumable alcohol that is at least 80 proof, 40% alcohol. Vodka is the preferred alcohol to use because it has no flavor, but rum, gin, brandy, and whiskey will work as well. You can also use apple cider vinegar or food-grade vegetable glycerin, although these often don't work as well for many herbs and they don't last as long. Number 1. Fill a glass jar 1/3 to 1/2 full of the dried herbs you were using for your tincture, but don't pack it down. The amount of herb used depends on the surface area and extractability of the herb. You can also use fresh herbs. Use 2 times the amount of dried herbs. Number 2. Fill the jar with alcohol, leaving 1/2 inch, 1.25 centimeters of headspace. Stir well, 1/2 inch, right there. Number 3. Close the lid on the jar, label and date, and store in a cool, dry place. Tinctures can take anywhere from 4 weeks to up to 6 months to fully extract, depending on the herbs you are using. 2 months works well for most herbs. Shake the jar once a day if possible. Number 4. Once your tincture is complete, usually around 8 weeks, strain out the herbs and rebottle the finished product. The alcohol renders it very shelf stable, and tinctures can last up to 7 years, you guys. Many people put tinctures in dropper bottles for ease of use, but any small glass bottles will work. 1/2 to 1 teaspoon is a normal dose for adults. For children's dosages, it's about 1/4 to 1/3 of the adult dose, depending on the weight. And make sure when you do your tinctures, always on your bottles, always write what it is, what tincture it is, and the dosage on your labels. Always, 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 always. The dosage for adults and the dosage for children. So make sure your labels are big enough to write that, because you always want that. All right. So that was it for tinctures and extracts, and the next one is, wait, double extractions. No, you know what? I'll combine the next one because it has to do with the tinctures. Double extractions. A double extraction is a combination of a tincture and a decoction, often used for mushrooms and lichens. In recent years, the medicinal value of various types of mushrooms has been researched heavily. If only a water-based decoction is used with reishi mushroom, for example, it extracts the beneficial polysaccharides, including the beta-glucans and the glycoproteins, but not the triterpenes like ganoderic acid in reishi, as they are not soluble in water. Both water and alcohol are needed to extract all of the medicinal compounds. For this tincture, alcohol and water are required. There are 2 methods. Both are below the next, and different herbalists prefer different methods. Final alcohol percentage should be 25 to 30% or higher. The recipes below that I'm going to give you that percentage, but you may also start with a higher proof alcohol. If you see cloudiness in your final product, that's okay. It is just the polysaccharides coming out of the solution. Simply shake before you use it. Okay. And this continues on the next page. Method 1. Starting with the alcohol extraction. Feel free to scale down this recipe. You'll need 8 ounces, which is 224 grams of more of dried mushroom or lichen, 24 ounces or 750 milliliters of 80 to 100 proof alcohol, 40 to 50% alcohol, 16 ounces or which is the same as 500 milliliters of distilled water. Fill a quart-size 1-liter canning jar half full with diced dried mushrooms, then fill it to about 1/2 inch of the top with the alcohol. Stir and cap it, shaking it every day for 2 months, then strain out the alcohol and set it aside. Number 2, make the decoction. Put 16 ounces or 500 milliliters of water into a ceramic or glass pot with a lid and put the mushrooms into it. Cover and simmer the mixture until half of the water is boiled off. This will take a few hours. If the water level drops too quickly, add more so that you can continue simmering your mushrooms. The end result should be 8 ounces of your decoction. Allow the water to cool and then strain out the mushrooms. Mix the water and alcohol. You should have 24 ounces or 710 milliliters of alcohol tincture together to create the finished double extraction. It has a high enough alcohol content, 30%, that it should be shelf stable for many years as long as it is stored in a sealed container. Method 2. Starting with a water extraction. I like to use a small crock pot for this recipe. You may also place the herbs and water into a jar, which is then covered and placed into a crock pot of water on low and a pot of water on low on the stove. Feel free to scale down this recipe. You'll need 8 ounces or 230 grams or more of dried mushroom or lichen, 24 ounces or 710 milliliters of 80 to 100 proof alcohol, 16 ounces or 500 milliliters of distilled water. Number 1, cut up the herbs into very small pieces. Place the distilled water and dried herbs into the crock pot and stir well. Cover and cook on the lowest possible setting for 3 days. That's a lot. It will cook down to about 8 ounces of medicinal decoction or water. Number 2, allow the herb and water mixture to cool and pour it into a large glass jar. Add the alcohol while the mixture is still quite warm but not hot. Make sure the jar is large enough so that you are adding 24 ounces of alcohol or split everything evenly between 2 jars. Cap the jar tightly, label and date the jar, and allow it to macerate for 6 to 8 weeks, shaking the jar daily. Number 4, strain out the herb. Cheesecloth works well for this, or carefully decant the tincture off. Store it in a tightly capped glass jar, label and date. Alright, and that's it for the tinctures and extracts and double extractions. So I'm going to go ahead and get off from here, and I'll get this up there, and I will see you guys in a few minutes on the next video, which will be out of the self-sufficient backyard, and I will see you guys in a few minutes. Bye, guys.